Today's story, Giving Up a Kingdom. Book, The Book of Rumi. Author, Maulana Jalaluddin Balkhi, known as Rumi. Giving Up a Kingdom. Ibrahim, the ruler of Balkh, was wealthy and fair, admired by his people. One night, as he slept soundly in his palace, he was awakened by thumping on the roof. He thought it might be his guards chasing intruders who were running havoc. Before he opened his eyes, he thought, "Who dare try to enter my palace? Could it be a thief? But with all these soldiers and guards stationed all over the grounds, who would risk his life?" He angrily got out of bed and walked over to the window, thinking, "I heard the guards giving chase, but no human would be foolish enough to try to steal anything from my palace. Surely they must be jinns," he concluded. "Who's out there in the dark of the night?" He screamed out the window as loudly and ferociously as he could. "It's us," a group of men yelled back in unison. "What are you looking for?" inquired Ibrahim, confounded. "We're chasing camels," they said matter-of-factly. "What idiots! Why would anyone chase camels on a rooftop?" "For the same reason that you were chasing God while lying in bed," they rationalized. "Is what we are doing so much more incredible than what you were doing?" When Ibrahim heard those words, he gasped in awe, reached for the first outfit of clothing he would lay his hands on, and left his palace for good. No one ever saw him in the province of Khorasan ever again. His name, as a great Sufi, became renowned throughout Persia, and his story was told and retold for years to come, inspiring visions of the mysteries of the spirit world. Next story is Darwish in the Garden. It was a beautiful sunny morning, and a dervish left home early, intending to run a few overdue errands. Soon he found himself walking past a lush garden filled with fragrant roses and amazing plentiful fruit trees. Instinctively, he entered the garden, intending to spend a few quiet moments alone and meditate on the beauty he had just witnessed. He found a secluded corner and sat down, making himself comfortable on a bench in the midst of the shrubs. Resting his head on his knee, he began to contemplate the grace of God. A young man, who had also been mesmerized by the beauty of the garden, walked past the dervish and thought that he had fallen asleep. He couldn't hold his tongue, and without any consideration for the man's privacy approached him and began a soliloquy accusing the dervish of shutting himself off from the magnificence that God had created. "It's a crime when you refuse to take advantage of the blessings that God has provided us with," the young man asserted aggressively. "What are you doing closing your eyes to all this beauty that surrounds you? By not taking advantage of it, you are in fact committing an unpardonable sin," he continued, self-pleasingly. The dervish slowly raised his head and knowingly gazed at the intruder as he rambled on, but kept his silence until the young man finally fell silent. The signs of the beloved, young man, are imprinted on one's heart, and that's where you should seek them, the dervish began. "The beauties that you speak of exist only in the outside world, while within my heart there is no limit to God's glory. The trees, the flowers, and the fruit that you see are only signs of His creation. They are merely a reflection on the surface of the water." he said softly but assertively, lowering his head again onto his knee and shutting his eyes as he resumed his meditation, ignoring the intruder's presence altogether. My next story is Silence is the Reply to Fools. At the king's court, there were many obedient and hard-working servants, except one. Unlike the others, this servant was lazy and greedy, unable to ever finish any task assigned to him. One day, the king, who up to then had been extremely tolerant, finally got fed up with the servant's stupidity and ordered the treasurer to reduce his salary drastically. Soon it was payday, and all the servants were enthusiastically awaiting their wages. When the stupid servant was handed his reduced amount of money, he couldn't believe his eyes and flew into a fury. Instead of finding out why he had been admonished, he began to curse and blame the cook for slandering him. The cook, who had been the one to hand him his reduced wages, told him that he was innocent and only the messenger. If you truly want to find the real reason for your punishment, why don't you take a look at your own behavior? You will soon discover who's the real culprit, he advised the servant. The servant, however, turned a deaf ear to this good advice and sat down to write a letter of complaint to the king. He began the letter by praising the king, but his vicious tone did not go unnoticed. The king, in his infinite wisdom, chose to ignore the letter altogether. When the servant never received a reply, he became suspicious of the messenger to whom he had entrusted his letter and thought that he had betrayed him. Soon again he flew into a rage and cursed the messenger, making an even greater fool of himself than before. Unwilling to give up, he wrote more letters to the king each week, all of which went unacknowledged. After several months, one of the king's emissaries, who was familiar with the case, pleaded with the king to respond to his servant and release him from his self-inflicted torture. To respond to him is easy for me, and to forgive him is laziness and stupidity, even easier, replied the king wisely. Yet I chose not to infest the other servants with the same ailments that he suffers from, namely weakness of character and absence of intelligence. Therefore, I say to thee, the answer to fools is silence.